like yours did in the morning. You know, and so you gotta. So when we first started, the first slide, you saw a picture of the panels, cloth panels up on my roof. So I have this little energy building right here, right beside the side door of my shop, and I have my generator here, and that is an emergency situation generator. So just so you can kind of get a perspective as I go to the next slide here. So this is the interior of my room. I really don't. This is the interior of my room, and these are what we call charge controllers right here. So the power comes down off the roof. You can see the wires here in each one of them. The wires come down into these 3 charge controllers, and the 12 panels are divided into 4 panels each. So 4 panels go into each one of the charge controllers, so that would be 3, 4, and 12. And that power then from the charge controllers, and what the charge controllers do is that they monitor the system so that we're not overcharging the batteries. And maybe you can help me up a little bit more with what charge controllers do also. You could get away, let's just say you're camping, you have a simple system, you got a battery, you got a small inverter, and you've got a solar panel. You could get away without a charge controller, that really be good. But you could solve it. So, again, if you're doing a system where you're going to be depending on it, you really need charge controllers. Now, today, they have charge controllers that are built into your inverters. We'll get to that in just a minute. So sometimes you can buy them like an outside one, like this one. The inverter for our system is the Ames 6,000 watt inverter. That does not have a charge controller built into it. But my new ones do. And I don't have a picture of those, but and I don't have them all set up yet, but we're in the process. So the power goes from the charge controllers over to what we call the bus bar. Now I'll go to the next one. The bus bar is a pretty. Think of the bus bar as a rotary circle. You know, you put your traffic, you come to a rotary circle in traffic, and all your power is coming in and out of those bus bars there. And you have power coming from, like I said, your charge controllers, and then you have power going from your bus bar into your batteries and over to your inverter. So if you think of it as the bus bar as a rotary circle, everything goes to there and from there. Does that make sense? Okay. And if you notice, those are 2 pretty heavy copper bars. They're about 12 inches long, about 3 inches wide, and about 1/4 of an inch thick of solid copper. You want something really, really substantial to take all that amperage. A lot of power flows through these bus bars, okay? And you want to protect them. I built a fiberglass cover. Went to Home Depot, bought the fiberglass, cut it all up. You can notice that I put covers on the side. You do not want to touch the 2 of those together. You will light up. like you have never lit up before, and you will burn. Okay? We're talking about a tremendous amount of power there. And so you've got to realize that what we're working with here is not something, is not a toy. Electricity is very dangerous. That's why they use it years ago to execute criminals with, okay? In this case, you probably wouldn't get electrocuted, you would get burned and burnt really bad. Have you ever been changing a battery and it will spark? You see sparks flying all over the place? So think of it as like a welding wire. So it's more of a burn than electrocution. Okay, does that make sense? We're not trying to scare you into not doing this, okay? But if you're doing this on your own and you've never done work with electricity before, what you do is you work with one side at a time, okay? And the other side you neutralize by putting a cover or some way to insulate it so in no way possible for you to come in contact with the two bars at the same time, or two wires at the same time. Make sense? Think of it as a water line, okay? So does anybody put in, thermal heat, radiant heat, thank you. If you put in radiant heat, you've got to make sure that all your heat lines are the same length. Because if you don't, water will flow in the shortest pipe in that sense. Does that make sense? That's why all your lines from your battery, all your wires from your battery, all have to be the same, in the same thickness, okay? And there's different gauges. If you notice the picture here, notice that the top wire here and the bottom wire here are really heavy gauge. And then these wires here are a little less gauge, and these wires here are even less. So these are the three wires that come from the charge controllers, and these two go to the batteries, these two go to the batteries, this one and this one goes to the inverter. Okay? And again, it's not hard to understand these things, but when you start to wire, there's specifications that the manufacturer, like of your inverter, requires in order for you to wire your inverter, okay? So these are all things that you have to know before you get into this. And you say, well, you'll throw up your hands and I won't do it. If you don't try, you won't learn, okay? I didn't know how to do any of this work. I wasn't born an electrician. Al wasn't born an electrician. So ideally, you find somebody that knows somewhat what they're talking about and has done this in the past. guys want me to learn? Al came over and I looked at his system. We went back and forth as to what I should do. And then when I fired the system up, Al came over and he caught some mistakes. And we had some issues, and I even had to call the company, and all those little dipstick things on the inverter, dip switches that I had to change on the inverter, and then the system worked. But if you've never tried, folks, you never try, you never learn. Even if you make some mistakes, you might even get a little shock, it may not work the first time. If you never try, you never learn, you never succeed. So I'm not trying to discourage you, but we want you to be doing it as safely and as educatedly as possible. Okay? Let's go on to the inverter. So everything, what you ultimately want to do is you're doing all this work over here so that this inverter will take the DC power that you're making from your solar panels and convert it into AC. And that's what that machine does. It converts DC into AC, and it converts it into AC power that has a direct sine wave. In this case, this Ames inverter produces both 110 and 220. So I have two 110 leads coming out of the back end of that thing that goes into my panel box, and I have a specific breaker that comes into it. Now, another thing you need to understand is the electric company does not like it when you have an inverter going in your panel box and you have electric power coming in at the same time. They don't like that. Neither does your inverter. It's a good way to burn that out or burn the transformer on the pole. So you want to make sure there are a number of ways of doing it. If you want to spend a lot of money, you can get special transfer panels that will not allow you to make that mistake. In my case, we shut off the power coming from the power company, and we turn on the switch from the inverter. There are other little gizmos that you can buy and put on your panel box that will not allow you also to make that mistake. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And in our case, once I got that system going, again, I was just going to use it for emergency. So when we lost our power, we were going to have a backup. And of course, in the back of my mind, when things get rough and we can't buy or sell, that was how we're going to use, that's what we were going to do to keep things going. But as the weeks went by, Al said, are you using power yet? And I said, well, no. He said, well, flip it on and see what you can do with your shop. And lo and behold, here I started in the wintertime. I think it was in January, February, we got it going. And I was able to run most of my shop. The lights all worked, the heating system worked. We could run some of our equipment. What I found was, because it's only a 6,000 watt system, that I couldn't run two pieces of 220 equipment at the same time. Other than that, it would run my table saw, or it would run another piece of 220 equipment, but it wouldn't run two simultaneously. But I could run all my other shop equipment. So what I did was, when we found we had to run two pieces of 220 equipment, I just went back to back online and turn off the solar panel. And which wasn't too big of a deal, because quite often when we have to do two pieces, run two machines, we're doing a lot of work at once. We get that done. It has finally come to my thinking that, what do you think will be the next step? We're going to have double our capacity, and we're going to add 12 more panels back to the shop. And they're going to be on our solar array, which we got most of that for. And then we're eventually, probably by the end of the year, we're even going to go two more inverters. So by the end of September, I hope to be at a point where the old system, we're way beyond the old system we're using. We're generating 13,000 watts of electricity, which will run the whole shop at that point. And then we want to add a windmill to that, and then by the end year we want to add another 2 inverters, which will bring us up to 26,000 watts, and we'll be able to put most of the house in there. So the new inverters that I have, they're from Signature Solar down in Texas. And these inverters are only 120 volt. They're not 220. But what is unique about them, and this is what Al's bringing up, is that you can gang them up. So what that means is I have 2 inverters that are put on the wall together, and I run a special electronic cord container. And what I'm able to do at that point then is to integrate them together to make 220. And how you make 220 is that your sine wave is turned 60 degrees, is it, or 100? Yeah, the staggered sine wave. Is that 60 degrees? Yeah. No, degrees on the sine wave. Yeah. That's what happens when you don't have electricity, right? So, again, we're not trying to make this too complicated, but essentially, when you have 220 electricity, remember the picture of the sine wave? Okay, so you can't, if you have 2 sine waves that are exactly the same, that's not true 220. In fact, you probably burn up your equipment. So what you have is, you have a sine wave, let's just say it's at the midpoint. On the other 110 line coming out of your box or coming out of your inverter, the other 110 line is staggered 60 degrees difference from the first one. So remember I said that there's blackout points, okay, where there's no power. So they work together, and that's what the electrical people came up with, way back in the time of Tesla. And they developed with this AC thing in order for it to work efficiently and so again, we're getting real technical here, but that's essentially what happens if your sine wave is turned a little bit further forward or behind in order for it not to be identical to the first wave. Does that make sense? Okay.
audit your consumption to see how much you take in so that you can start a project and start on the right foot. And also, as far as storage goes, you said you have to overstore, but the batteries, can they retain, do they lose when you put it in, does it keep it?
About $25, and you just plug it into your outlet, and then plug the appliance into that unit, and it will tell you what information you use. You have to do one.
While managing buildings close to restaurants and that, the crews and that, we're trained to turn on just a certain amount of lighted and everything else. And that keeps your demand unit down. Now by doing that, you can cut your bill in half. Easy. And if, they'll give you a sign one, then you can go back and bring it down. But if somebody hooks up and turns everything out at one time, then you're going to keep that demand unit for the whole month. Not just that one little period of time. That's why the trains that turn things on a few at a time, and you can keep your demand and your cost.
What's your efficiency of your inverter?
much do you lose when you convert?
So your batteries will only take a certain amount of charge. They won't get hot. And they won't get cold. And the charge control is there to keep that going. So what happens is, the charge controller will shut off electricity when you're going to if it gets to be too hot. You've got to set that parameter to do the charge control.
Well, what happens to the electricity that's shut off?
It's just shut off. It's like a light switch. Okay. Now you can do that with panels. You cannot do that with a windmill. So when I first visited Brother Al and I looked at his solar system, he had this strange little box up on the wall. And I said, "Al, what's up with it?"
Another question is, what is the payback electricity? What would be the payback? Excluding your work. And the other one is excess current being sold for the power. Talk about payback. So there's two ways of looking at it.
I stood up here talking about implementing the solar power probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I boo-hooed those who wanted to put panels in and everything like that, and build a system just because electricity was free, cheap, and easy, accessible. It just didn't make any sense. Since the situation in California and Texas is happening, and more I'm hearing the New England grid is in danger time to time. I hear this from time to time on the radio. I'm very concerned even about the New England grid. So there comes a point, because we know what we know about the future, that we don't look so critically at the payback as, do we want power when it hits the fan? Okay, that's the question you want to. Are you going to be prepared when the electricity stops coming to your meter box and you no longer can get it? There's a second equation you want to look at. I don't know about you, but my electricity bill has doubled in the last year. And it's going higher and higher, okay? If you were paying $150 2 years ago, you're paying $250 to $300 a month for electricity now. Now the payback comes quicker. So let me share a few dollars and cents with you. This initial system that I built, I probably have $9,000 tied up in it. That's an emergency situation. In other words, it will run my home, but barely. In other words, I can run my, we have a 220 well, our pump for the well is 220, and it'll run all our refrigerators and freezers. We have 2 freezers and 2 refrigerators. My wife does a lot of canning and freezing and preparing. Okay? And then we have all the lights. We cannot run the dryer, but we can run the wash machine. But we have to turn off the well pump. Yeah, we pretty much have to turn off the well pump in order to run something. Okay? So again, it's an emergency situation. That's what I was planning for, and that's what I built. The new system I'm building is going to cost me somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 when I'm done. So I'll break it down for you. I have $9,000 tied up in the 6 inverter batteries that I have. Believe me, when I pushed the button on that night, I prayed for it. I told Karen, I said, I've got to find batteries a lot cheaper than this. I already bought the inverters. Those cost me $2,500 for the 2 inverters, which gives me $13,000 between the 2 of them. I had already bought the new panels, which cost me $3,600. Now these new panels are very cool. They're what they call bifacial panels. What that means is I get solar power on both sides of the panel. So on the front side of the panel, I get 440 watts. But together with what the reflective light is on the back side of the panel, it can give me as much as 570 watts. Does that make any sense? So as long as I don't put those panels down flat on my roof like the ones I have now, and that's why we're building a solar panel. We can go back here to help us with that. The snow in the wintertime will reflect light, and then there's always light on the back side. If you stand in the sunshine, right, is there darkness behind you? No, there's still light. It's all the way around. And so the solar panel takes up that backlight and increases it by 7. Make sense? So those cost me $3,600. Now the big purchase was the batteries. That gives me 30 kilowatts of power. So to give you an idea of how much power that is we use 900 plus kilowatts of power a month for the electric power. And if you divide that by 30 days, it's approximately 40 kilowatts a day. Okay? So that one battery, that one battery will pretty much supply a lot of power for most of the day. Just to give you an idea, and that's an expensive property. And that's the best price I can find. Now, Al is telling me that it's a little bit cheaper. I bought that before I was started. So, and then there's wire involved and everything like that. So I will have, like I said, somewhere between 20 and 25,000 tied up in the system because we're going to be adding windmills and we're talking about so,
up here in northern Maine, we got snow. So when you put the panels up there, I know this in my travels was in the county that a lot of these solar panels have snow on them. So if you have snow on them, they're not producing. Is that correct?
you're 100% correct. That's why the ones that I have on my roof are coming off my roof because I'm sick and tired of going up on my roof in the wintertime and shoveling them off and worrying about my wife always worrying about me falling off. So this is the answer to it. And this is what Brother Al has done. It's what you call solar arrays. So what you do is a solar array is there's a number of ways. We're building our own units. What they are is you've got a 3x3 tube, steel tube that goes down into a cement block. That is a 3-foot by 3-foot block, 4 foot deep. And there's rebar and all that. It's 6 feet high. On top of that, we have a trailer axle that will spin 360. On top of that, we have another 2-foot tower that allows for the whole panel of everything to pivot. So it will pivot from about that much to about 1 feet. So in the sun, we're down about that angle now. So in the wintertime, we would do this. Now, if we have a really bad winter or an ice storm, we can tip the panels almost straight up. That point, and then also you can reach them from where we are on the ground. We can reach those and clean up and be real bad. It's an ice storm that we really bad for the panels really ice up on. A regular snowstorm, we can just tip them up a little bit more and then just slide off in a snowstorm. So I get what you mean, and I've had to live with that, okay? And that's why my panels are coming down on the ground.
Okay, if you have a panel that has a snow, if you have to clean it, what do you clean it with? If you take the broom on it, will it damage the solar panel?
No, I've used squeegee type things that works good, or broom, just a fine broom. Yeah.
How long do the solar panels last? And how much do they drop over time? That's why it pays to understand how electricity works and understand the difference between breaking so that when you're
buying your equipment, you're buying equipment that's going to match what you're producing. You really got to know these things.
Monocrystalline, that's the type of panel you revise.
Yeah, yeah.
And is that something that you can only order that? You can't order a closed fiber?
Yeah, I mentioned that before. When it first comes up the top there on the 6-foot pole, I have a trailer axle on it, and that allows a 360. Okay. So, okay, so there's a couple of different ways of tracking the sun, okay? There's 3 that I'm aware of, but there's 2 that are common. One is to have solar cells that track the sun by time. And every so many minutes, it'll start to move in order to keep the focus. That uses a lot more power, and every time you're using your little turn your solar array, it's more wear and tear. So the way I've chosen to do it is on a timer. So every 2 hours, and I'll have a summer timer and a winter timer because of the length of day. So every 2 hours, my timer will turn on, and it will turn the array like this. That way, I'm not losing as much power. I'm not putting as much usage on the motor set. Right. So the angle is setting manually. will be just so you understand. You keep it simple because you only have to change it maybe 3 or 4 times a year with this slant okay? And I also want to do that because if we have a tremendous snowstorm or a windstorm, I can get out there and manually change things very quickly. And what I will do is I'm going to eventually have 4 solar arrays, six panels on each array. I have 2 I've built now that we still have to mount the panel on. All those will be wired together. So when I push a switch or when the timer thing kicks on, all 4 of those will operate identically the same time. So I'm not having to go to this one, go to this one.
So I have a question about your system.
I am not putting my power back on the system.
Oh, so once you put it back, that's considered.
Yes. No.
That's up completely. So that's not a hybrid.
So let me share a few things with what So when I saw that gizmo on Al's power room, that bugged me. You know, some things sticking to the clock. And I hadn't found a solution for it until I got thinking about my energy needs for heating my home. We have a large wood boiler at this house in the shop. It takes 24 a year, and I'm 69 years old, and I'm tired of cutting 20 a year. And as I've been researching on the internet, I find that the Europeans are much further ahead of us on innovative power sources than we are here in America. And what they're doing in Europe is that they're storing high amounts of energy either in sand or thermal brick. And for instance, I believe it's in Finland where they have this huge silo in a town that's filled with sand that they superheat up to about 500 degrees. And they siphon heat off of that to heat different buildings in and around the town. In England, they're selling units that probably about 3 feet diameter by about 4.5 feet high that are filled with sand that they heat up thermoelectrically. So it's with an element inside the sand, and then they have some sort of a way to pull the heat out, probably an exchanger of some type that pulls the heat out, and they use that to heat their house. And so the advantage for them over in England is that their power consumption, their power bill at night is a lower cost per watt than during the day. And so what they do is they feed energy into the sand battery during the night at a lower cost, and then that turns off, and during the day they just coast on all the excess heat inside the sand battery. I don't exactly know all the technologies that they use, but I've had some experience in a lot of different things. And so I experimented for the first time earlier this year with sand. And I got an element from Home Depot, just a stovetop element, put 220 into it. And again, you've got to be careful when you're doing this kind of stuff. If you have never worked electricity before, you can fry yourself and burn down your house, okay? So I'm not recommending you do what I'm telling you I've done, but I've worked electricity for a long time. I know the dangers of it, and I know how it works, and so I'm very cautious on what I do. But to give you an idea of the heat that can come out of a element in your cook stove, I was clocking as much as 860 degrees coming off that element for these long 15 minutes. Let's turn these down. So the idea is we're planning on adding some windmills along with our 24 panel system. And so as I've been contemplating this whole thing, and trying to figure out another way of generating heat other than cutting 24 a year, it has occurred to me that the European method is really something to really look at and dive into. But after working with the sand, I wasn't, I burned up the element in a matter of a couple hours, and the sand never got to the temperatures that I was hoping it would. So I went back online and started researching thermal brick. And what I came up with is a company out of Pennsylvania. This is thermal brick here. I'll pass it around. It's very heavy. Okay, that's not the brick that lines your stove. Okay, this is a whole different animal. What it is this is brick that you would build a pizza oven with or a foundry with if you're doing melting metals and stuff like that. It is a high temperature brick that will take temperatures and store temperatures up to 3,000 degrees. That's why it's called thermal brick. I bought, in order to get into this thing, I had to buy 5 cartons of thermal brick, which was 24 bricks per carton. And cost me, to get the exact amount, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,100 to buy that, shipped to my. Actually, I had to have it delivered down to a place where they have a forklift, so the local lumber company does that for me whenever I have to do that. Anyway, we've run 2 experiments with it, with electrical, 220 electrical elements. The first one we did for an hour, and we were heating with a larger element, and we got the bricks up to around, I think, 300 to 400 degrees, but we only ran it for an hour. The second one we did a few weeks ago, we ran 2 elements, and we had a stack of brick on the bottom, which was about 5 bricks, and then we had an element, we had another stack of brick on top of that, 5 more bricks on top of that, and we had separators that kept a little bit of a space like that between the 2 bricks and the element. Then we had the second element and then fire brick, and I didn't have anything to insulate all that basic core with, so I just used more fire brick, okay? But again, that's not an insulating brick, that is a heat absorbing brick, but it was the best I had at the time. We ran it for 1 hour. Poor Bill. We had the AC cranked in the room. It was a hot day. It was at least 85 degrees outside. It was a hot day. And we ran it for an hour, and we were clocking, we were getting heat readings of around 450 degrees after 1 hour. Yeah, we're running 2 elements. And then we turned it off for an hour, turned it back on for an hour, and we shut it off at 11:45, and Billy was crying for mercy. Actually, his hot chocolate was just getting too hot to work. And I agreed with him. It was getting unbearable. And we were able to get temperatures of around 650, 750 degrees on the thermometer. Now, what's really cool about this stuff is this. We turned it off at 11:45, and I was getting readings all through the afternoon of 400 and 500 degrees, hour after hour after hour, and around 8 o'clock that night, 9 o'clock that night, I was still getting readings of 250 to 300 degrees off of the thermometer inside the unit. And again, it wasn't insulated properly. So since then, I have thermal board. Now this is a whole different thing. This is what you call highly insulated board that you would use to insulate like a kiln or a pizza oven or something like that. This board you can take and you put a torch on one side of it, and it's cold on the other side. And it's expensive, it's not cheap. I've got 1-inch thermal board that will go all the way around what we call the heating. Now, how do I extract the heat out of this thing? There are 2 different types of heat exchangers that we use in the wood boiler industry. One is a hot air to hot water heat exchanger, and then the other one is a hot water to hot water heat exchanger. I don't know if you guys understand how that works, but if you think about a hot air, hot water heat exchanger, think about the radiator in your car. You have a radiator in your car that runs the hot water coming off your engine, and as you're going down the road, the outside air, which is much cooler than your engine, except if you're down in Texas or California these days, it's much cooler, and it cools down all those little pipes, those little channels, and cools all that water down, all that increase down, so that when it circulates back into the engine, it keeps your engine cool. So what I have is a heat exchanger that I'm going to do the reverse process. So the heating core that's highly insulated is going to have a sliding insulation with holes periodically placed, so that when the heat rises up, it's diffused as evenly as possible to come up into the heat exchanger. And as the hot air comes up through that exchanger, then the return water coming from the house or the shop will come through there and be heated up, hopefully to 180 degrees, and then back to the house. Why is this more efficient? Well, because we're storing a huge amount of energy and we're only taking a little bit of energy out. And like Al has that gizmo that you're just dumping all that thermal energy into the air. I'm capturing that thermal energy. So I'm building my system bigger than my needs are for my home. And I'm going to use that system to help heat my house. Now, I'm not relying 100% on that. I'm going to also work on a gasification boiler that instead of using water to hold the heat, I'm going to use thermal pressure in the same basic principle. And I can heat up with thermal pressure. If you've ever opened up a wood stove or a boiler and you've taken a temperature test, you will find that the temperatures in there when the wood is burning is somewhere between 400 and 700 to 800 degrees. And that will be, if you can make this thing super efficient by reburning the gases coming out of your heating chamber, then you clean them up so you're burning all the tars and all that kind of stuff. Then you can superheat the thermal brick as an exhaust fan. Does that make sense? Again, we're still the first one I'm working on is the electrical building. We are probably, if I were to work full-time on it, I probably would have it done in anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. Where, I might have a few bugs I've got to work out in the top chamber. The bottom chamber, I pretty much have it figured out how this will work, how it was designed, and the controls and everything I need for it. Top chamber is still a theory in my mind. I've got everything I need to build it with, but I'm sure, like anything else I tackle, there's going to be some problems I have to place, work out in my mind. But that's what I want to do with it. Go ahead.
So, I'm kind of confused. How do you heat up the thermal? You're saying you use
Electrical elements.
electrical elements?
Yeah, like it would be in your oven.
So, okay, so if I have an oven, I place the brick inside the oven. Just
No.
No.
Then when you build a special, you build a electrical device that puts all stuff in. And let me draw this out for you.
question. This question is for you with the systems. When you build maybe it's a small system, and you add to it, do you have to wipe everything you have to bring it to, like you're building a new system, are you going to add to what you have? Do you have to pull some stuff out and put some new stuff in? Is the system set up that you can just keep adding to it like Legos to get it going?
So the new system I'm building is expandable modular system. That's why I'm going to selling it. But the new system is expandable. Again, Al and I are just getting into this. I mean, even though Al's been off the grid a lot longer than I've been using solar and everything, it's still a learning process for both of us. So we're here to share with you. That's why we don't have any claims of being experts. We are learners. We just maybe a grade ahead of the rest of it. Okay? We've had some experience. Yeah, right. Okay. So let me explain how this works. Okay. This is why you just can't do this in your oven. Okay. This here is a bottom layer of thermal brick. Okay. You have an element, another layer of thermal brick, element, thermal brick, element, thermal brick, element, thermal brick, and you have 2 layers of thermal brick at the top. Up through the center of this thing, if I were to draw a footprint of there would be slots that would be open so that the air can circulate through this whole thing, okay? So the air comes up into this is high, this is insulated, and this is where I call the diffuser, where you have holes that open and close, okay? So that insulated board, that's the diffuser. It comes up into your heat exchanger, and then this is a hot line, cold line coming in and a hot line coming out. And of course there's fans in this whole thing, and the air, it's a self-contained, and all the air goes back down into the bottom part of the core. The core is super insulated. Again, you've got that. I was hoping to have a lot of this stuff done. I'm within days of having quite a bit of it done. It's just trying to run a business and do all the church stuff and do life. You only have so much time. I'm sure you know country living takes time and money. But that's the basic concept. I'm pretty certain of this part of it because I've run I've run enough experiment that I'm pretty certain of it. So I was willing to make the investment for the rest of it. The top part of it is something I haven't completely worked out. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I'll tell you in about another month or so how that comes together. Exactly.
All the heat so the issue is if you calculate the cost of heating these bricks up and then what you recover from them.
So again, I am not looking. I am looking at this thing not from a efficiency standpoint. Okay, I am looking at this as this can work. In other words, I know they're doing it in Europe and they're making it efficiently in Europe. Okay, so I know the concept works. And so my goal is to develop something that works, and the excess power, instead of trying to sell it back to the electric company for pennies on a dollar, I'm going to put into that unit. I can make a lot of electricity. For instance, if you calculate all the electricity I'll be able to make with just 24 panels, I'm up somewhere between 9,000 to 11,000 watts per hour. As I told you before, I only need about 30,000 watts per hour, per day, 30,000 watts per day. So what I'm saying is in a matter of 3 or 4 hours, I can generate enough power for my whole day. And what am I going to do with the rest of my electricity for the rest of the day, okay? Do I sell it back to the electric company on pennies on a dollar? Or do I use it to save my Ford back for cutting 20 quart a year? So I believe this is a more efficient, again, this is purely experimental work. You know, I've made the investment, I've done a couple tests, I'm impressed with what the ability to hold power or hold heat. And as we go down the road, I will do tests and find out kind of what it's going to cost. I'm not saying that, you know, this is for everybody, but for those of us who are on solar and that can generate excess solar, this is something that could work. How big is it?
Yes.
The core
big is the
of this is, it's actually pretty small. The core of this is about 16 by 18 and about 2 feet high. That's the heating core. And then you've got 3 inches of insulation all around this thing. And then you have the chamber, the heating chamber on top of that. And I'm not quite sure the size of that until I actually build it. No, inches. 2 feet. Brother, you ask Billy. I have to wear leather gloves when I'm taking my temperatures. Okay? The last time I did this, I went out and bought all I needed to finish the project because I was beyond impressed with what I was getting from those 2 elements. Now get this, I couldn't do this on solar. Okay? I was maxing out that little 6,000 watt inverter. But I did my first test on solar because I was running 1 element. But when I went to 2 elements, I could not do it. Now I could alternate my elements every 15 minutes, okay? Because I was only running 2. And this, the one that the final version that I build, the one that I'm going to be testing and building, is going to have 4 elements. And those will alternate. They will not be all on at the same time. They will be alternating on timers. In fact, a similar timer that I'm using to turn the array. Okay, and these are cheap. Guys, all this stuff is. I mean, the brick you have to look for. That was some searching to find the brick. Okay, everything else I'm buying is pretty much on Amazon. The thermal blanket, the thermal board, all that stuff's on Amazon. All the controllers, the heat exchanger I bought on Amazon. This is not us. This is all off-the-shelf stuff.
If you to expand that around your boiler area, you may call it, you put sand on the outside, which would help keep the heat in for a longer period of time.
I would put more insulation. Because in order to put sand there, you've got to put metal in the container. Now you got to think about it. Let's go down the road 2 years, and let's just say this thing works, right? And I decide to put it on the market commercially. Now I'm sharing this with you as brothers in Christ, because as I develop it, I will share on the results. But I'm not going to share on the world unless the elements. So, and I'm sharing, again, some of this is purely theoretical, okay? I do not know what the top chamber will do yet. I will be able to tell you that within a month or so. But right now, I do not know. That's the equation that we depended on. I know that I've used heat exchangers before, so I know how they work, and I know they do. I've never reversed I've never done the reverse of the heat exchanger. I've always dumped heat out of the heat exchanger. I've never collected heat from the heat exchanger. So that's a question mark in my mind. There are other ways that I can grab the energy. There is a company out in Michigan that has an oil that will take temperatures up to 660 degrees. And I I can go with that with a different way of doing it. It gets more complicated and it's a little bit on the scary side. Because if we heat these oils up to a certain temperature, there is a crash point, and I've talked with the engineer out there, I've explained my concept, and we've gone back and forth a bit on some emails and conversation, and it's doable. It's not my first option. My first option is what I'm doing now. If I can get that to work, then that is a much better and safer and easier option than going with oil. And so what you do then is you go to from the heating core to the oil, heat up the oil, and then you take the oil and you run that through a hot water to hot oil exchanger. I'm getting real technical for on this now. There's many ways that I can grab that heat. This is the simple method that I can think of. Now, you guys, if you think of a better method, you let me know, but that's the best I can come up with. Now, I want to talk about one more thing. Are we running out of time on date?
One question on the panels, the solar panels. The quality of the panel, are they all basically the same, or are there some Cadillacs versus Pontiacs when it comes to a solar panel? Or are they basically all the same?
I think that's the answer to that question. Now, remember too that there on the panels there's different wattage. Okay, so keep that always in your mind. I want the biggest thing, but I want to cut that out. Another thing I'd like to talk with you about is that testing. Okay. Another thing I want to touch base with you on that we're working on the shop is, and yeah, we do have time to go to Cunningham too. That's why we don't get all our other projects done as quickly as we like to. But one of the things that we're working on, actually, a couple different windmill styles. Again, this is experimental. A number of years ago, I got into making carbon fiber or fiberglass. This is the blade that we're going to use on an experimental windmill. It's 10 plies of fiberglass with epoxy. Now, this is not hard to do. The hardest thing you got to do is come up with a mold. The mold will get really simple. And you can buy, and these are not cheap to build. We've got 5 of them built, we've got one way to build, and then you can start melting them and we'll build. And it takes about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to build one of these. They'll work quickly. So how you do it is you have a mold, you put plastic over the mold. You use, there's a spray you can buy, there's a piece of spray you can buy at Walmart. It's a fine adhesive spray that you spray on the mold, and then you spray it on plastic, and you put that on the base of plastic. I'll make the plastic on the base of the mold. And then you coat it with a thermal epoxy, and then the first coat. Coat the cloth, and then epoxy the top, epoxy until you get another layer. And this is not finished in any way, but it's a basic shape we're going to use. How we're going to move it on the top and bottom, and how we're going to fasten that to the center shaft. There's holes top and bottom that we're going to send rods through and down those onto the shaft. And again, this is all experimental. My goal is to develop a windmill that will produce somewhere around 1,000 to 4,000 watts depending on the wind speed. So my goal is to start producing power at around 5 miles an hour. Now, you can check your area to see if wind is viable for you. If you go on weatherunderground.com and you look at a 10-day forecast, if you look down below at the bottom, you will see that they have a chart that shows you the wind speed and the direction that the wind comes from. And you'll notice that during the day is a cycle. And sometimes the wind speed will get up to as much as 10 to 15 miles an hour. Sometimes it's a lot higher than that. But you can see during the week that wind speed and the direction it's coming from. This is going to be a multi-direction windmill, and it will pick up wind from any direction.
Is there such a thing as you have an off-grid system? Can you produce too much wattage and that would harm your system? Oh, to capture it all. That's the idea, to capture it. What if you don't have one of those? Can you produce too much wattage?
Then yes, you can. And so the windmill is going to have like louver doors on it. So think of a circle, okay, where these are spinning inside a circle, top and bottom, and then on the outside of that are doors coming out. These are louver doors. They do two things. They have to help to direct more wind into your blades. They also can be dampered down with some electronics so that, let's say we got 50, 60, 70 miles an hour wind that would tear that apart. They damper the wind down, okay? Again, theory, okay? But I know we have off-the-shelf technology that will be able to do that stuff, okay? The other design that we're working on is something that they came up with in Japan, and I don't know if there's anywhere else on the website. I think there's a couple other places on the website you can find them, and that is tubes. In Japan, they have a windmill. There's 3 tubes spaced around a center shaft, triangulate, and these things they claim are cyclone proof. And what the tubes do is the tubes spin right around where they are in their compartment, whatever you, the axle. Yeah, they spin, but in doing so, the whole thing spins around. And the idea I have, and so I'm a concept guy. I see concepts, and then I see other concepts that I integrate into the first guy's idea, sort of thing. And so what I want to do is I want to put 3 of those together and separate them with a smaller space than the width of the tube, so that as these tubes are spinning, it starts to create a Venturi effect, okay? And that will harness a little more energy as it's circulating, because these things are all spinning and they're creating a Venturi effect. Again, it's all theory, but we're working on that. And again, it's not hard. You know what we're using for our tubes? Take a guess. What's that? You got it. The green ones. The green ones.
So what was the cost of making the frame?
For the 6 of them, I'm using about 30 yards of fiberglass cloth. And I forget exactly what I paid for that, but it seems to me it was like $5 or $6 a yard. And it's going to take 2 So when I buy my epoxy, I get a gallon in a, not quite a quart. You get the epoxy comes in a gallon, and then you have it's not quite a quart of hardener, or it is a quart, maybe it's a quart of hardener. Yeah, it's a quart of hardener because it's a 3 to 1 ratio. And that costs me $140 delivered to my shop. And we'll go through 2 of those. That's what it will cost me to build plus my time to build each one of these blades. So it's not cheap, but it's affordable. Okay? Again, it's experimental. We're not sure how this is going to work. But if you never try, you never succeed. And so a year from now, I'm hoping, by God's grace, that we'll have an array out there and a whole system out there so that we can go over it inch by inch, and you can see the whole thing operational, testing it, see how it functions. Might even have one of these things, a smaller unit out there, so you can see how the whole thing works. So be praying for me. The Lord gives us wisdom. Okay? Any questions? Vertical. Yeah, vertical. I believe from everything I'm convinced on a small scale, vertical is better than the horizontal. And Al's had horizontals and they burn up. And he's paid decent money for them. Everything I can see online, it seems like vertical is the way to go. And I've studied this for a few years. This is not something, I've just dreamed up. I've been really researching this for a number of years, and I'm convinced that ducting more air in with these louver doors coming off the windmill is a win-win. I've seen that used a number of times. We can experiment with different types of blades, and after I started building these things, I said to myself, why is it that I tried to do the hardest blade you could build? I could have made a much simpler blade by just doing a U-shaped thing. I tend to do that. The first time I built a house, I built the hardest roof that you could build. And I'm kind of dumb and numb that way, but it is what it is. But the Lord gave me wisdom how to do it. So do you folks, can you figure out how I came up with a mold for this? Take a guess, some of you guys that are in construction. Sonotube. So do you know how you got the twist in it?
They're twisted. They have a twist. Look.
Exactly, you got it, David. So so when I cut the sonotube down to give me the basic shape, Billy and I started playing with it, and we put it on the table saw, and I said, Billy, you hold that end down. I'm going to hold my end down, and lo and behold, we had the twist. Put it on a board, build some supports, and it was that simple. Now, we did add more. We did put an epoxy surface on it. We put two layers of fiberglass and epoxy on that just to stiffen it up. Because, again, it gets abused when you're demolding it. It takes quite a bit to get that popped out because you've got everything glued in there. But it demolds pretty quickly. You learn really quick how to do it. You just do it with a long screwdriver and you pry a little bit, and all of a sudden the plastic goes and you don't use the plastic a second time. It's a one-shot deal. And again, I want to give the glory to God because I really didn't know how He's going to do that. And I have found over and over and over again when I pray, the Lord gives me the wisdom to keep moving step by step by step. Believe me, okay? I have people say really nice things, and it's like, no, I'm really not that smart. It's God gives me wisdom as I need it. That's why I say to you, okay, do not hesitate if the Lord puts it on your heart to move forward. Because I've seen it over and over again. People who really can't afford to buy land in the country, the Lord opens the door. People that want to do this and that out in the country, I've seen the Lord open the door. And I'm seeing that with myself. And that's why I'm here today, to give God the glory, because He is the one that gives wisdom and skill. you know, with the building of the temple, the tabernacle, okay, Biziel and the other guy, he gave them wisdom and guidance to build the most incredible stuff out of, you know, out of the gold and the wood and everything like that. I believe God will give his people wisdom in the last days.
So you mentioned your batteries. Are you using lithium batteries?
My new one system is. That's why it costs so much money. Yeah.
6 batteries. He said it was one. It was 6 batteries.
Oh, I said it was one?
Yeah, he said it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 6 batteries. Thank you.
Better price out of China.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the smarter buyer than I am.
Well, he's been doing it longer. So what would you say the ratio is less than what you paid? You paid 100% for what a lithium battery goes.
What do you think? What can you get? What can you get for 30 kilowatt? Or about 30 kilowatt? What can you get it for?
Okay, so the way batteries are rated, everyone knows amp hours, voltage and amp hours. So what it is what you do is how you figure is your amp hours. You want to add up consumption of non-essential time. So let me give you a little idea here. The most that I've counted roughly, cloudy days, pretty thick cloudy days, is about 10 days in a row. Maybe you can go to 14 or so, but about 10 days you'll still get 1 day breakage after 10 days. So what you want is production on those cloudy days. What's your production and your consumption ratio? And that's how it's going to determine how many batteries you need. So I get 30 amp hour 24 volt batteries, which you cannot get 300 amp hour 24 volt batteries. You cannot get a 48 300 amp hour battery. The batteries would be too big, you couldn't carry them. So these things weigh about roughly 160 pounds, 170 pounds a piece. So what I get them for, it's roughly about $1,800 or so is what I get them for. And that's with a battery management system already installed in it. So it literally has a computer on top. So the battery protects itself. And what you do is, these are lithium phos versus lithium ions. If you know lithium ions, if anyone uses cordless tools, they come with lithium ions. You leave them outside in your car on a nice cold day where it's below zero, you come back and you try to put it on, and it'll probably do 3 spins and die. And lithium ions don't work very well then. But lithium phos can take up to -40 Fahrenheit, I believe is what I saw the testing for. So
break that down for us, Al. What would it take to match what I paid for?
So what you paid for, so you have
30 kilowatts.
30 kilowatts of, how many amp hours were your batteries?
They're 100.
100. You got 6 100.
Yeah.
So add it up. So for me to produce what he does, one of my batteries, when I unite 2 of my batteries for 24 volts, he's going to go to 48 volts. He bought 48 volt batteries.
Yeah.
So what you would have is, since you do, to make 48 volts, you have, if you put 2 of my batteries together, it'd be 300 amp hours. So it'd be 3 of his batteries. So added up, it's roughly
$3,600.
Yes, about 36.
And I would have paid $4,500 for
$4,500,
that.
yeah.
Okay, so that gives you an idea.
Yeah, it gets you more or less.
Go ahead.
Typically, you notice prices after things been on the market for a while, they drop a little. Has that been the case with lithium batteries a year ago? Prices seem to be coming down a little bit.
They're not. And the reason being is this.
Demand?
Okay, so here's a couple things. And this is why not everything looks what it seems. If you go, let's say right now on eBay or you go on Amazon, you'll find lithium batteries, whether ion or phos, they have nothing but 2 poles. Those don't have a battery management system. Then you have to get an inverter or a charge controller that has the battery management system in it.
Right.
So these are blank batteries. So you have to then do your homework there, what you're getting for what you're trying to achieve.
Don't the batteries now have the charge control, all one unit? Do they sell them?
Have a battery management system, which is the battery protects itself. That means after because lithium batteries, you can discharge 80%, down to 20%. When you get to 20% is when they kick off.
Okay, I think what you're referring to is the gizmos that you can buy at online, or you can buy it at Harbor Freight, where you have like it's got a battery, it's got an inverter and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're paying twice the amount of money you would buy. If you buy one of those units, you're paying at least twice the amount of money that you would pay if you weren't setting up your own system. Do you follow what I'm saying? Dollar for dollar. So we bought one for my parents just because they're elderly, and if there's an emergency thing, because they couldn't handle anything complicated. Not that my parents are stupid, but my dad's 92. And so we need something as simple as possible. You know, if you're going to go camping, they're nice. But if you're thinking about something that you want to use all the time, that's a waste of money. Go get the good equipment. And then again, don't go buying batteries off Amazon unless you really know what you're buying. All those inexpensive lithium-ion batteries on Amazon, a lot of them are just junk. There's second-rate batteries coming out. You can watch different guys do testing on these things. So that's why you've got to be really careful. You've got to know what you're buying. Same thing with your inverters, okay? You can buy a lot of stuff on Amazon cheap, and that's what it is. It's cheap. So you've got to really know how to shop for these things.
So
David.
if you can only purchase these things online, where do you go?
So I went to Signature Solar. They sell really good stuff. Al gets it directly out of China, and Al does a lot of research, a lot more than I do, okay? So you've got to go somewhere where they're selling really quality stuff. And the reason I went to Signature is because Fred put me onto it. Okay, and Fred, you know Fred, okay? And Fred has got basically the same system that I have, okay? And that's what put me onto it, and we went back and forth a little bit. Again, we'll learn from each other, and that's why we're here. And again, we're not experts. We're probably out of time, right? I see. 10 minutes. We got 10 minutes? Wow.
So listen, if you're going to go, Alibaba's where I went to research. So in Alibaba, you have to do a few things, okay? Most of them want to sell you a large order, but the ultimate way you find out is what production per month they can do, or per week. The larger the production, the bigger the company, the more they produce, and to who they sell to. They give you all the stuff through chat automatically, and you can see it, how many people they sell to, companies, you can call their companies they've sold to, what it is, how good is it, so on and so forth. Pretty much that's how you're going to find out what they're selling. And then where they stand, where we get our batteries, literally the warehouse is like 7 football fields. And this is what they get. They produce 100,000 batteries a week. So ultimately, when they flow out, I mean, they're not just building just for me. I tell them it's a sample what I want, because they want to give me, we want you to buy
Truckload.
a container. Buy a whole container. I'm like, well, let me see the sample. I'll let you know what's going on. And once you get your sample, like I said, I had batteries. My neighbor ran out of batteries. His batteries went down. I sold it to him. Not for any profit, but just to help him out. And like I said, he's happy as can be. Lithium phosphate for up here.
Yeah.
For up here. Mind you, be mindful, you put this outside far away from your house and you go away for a month, you might not find them there when you come back. People know. The lithium phos you would.
Yes.
Lithium ions I would not keep in my house.
Right.
They have a tendency. That's a totally different ball game. That's another show they're not this one. It's, literally when you get to 94, 98% or something, 94 to 96%, the heating on those batteries goes astronomical. So on the lithium ions. And if anything electronic goes bad, you better get some marshmallows, because that's what you're going to have, a little pile of sticks for you to roast them on.
So another thing too, even if a battery is rated, like in my system, my new battery system, it's rated for 30 kilowatts. I can never draw that many. I can probably draw it down 50%, so that's 15.
No, 80. You can go do 80.
You can, but the further you go below 50%, you lose more and more life cycles. So it's a trade-off, right?
Yep.
So if you go down to 50% and then charge it back up again, you might have 7,000 cycles. But if you drop down like to 80%, okay, you might cut that in half. I don't know what the numbers are. Do you know what the numbers are on that?
Well, what you do is you lose up to 70% if you do full cycles.
Yeah. So just so that you know that, again, there's just so much to know about this stuff, but you start learning. We don't know it all, and we keep learning, and we share with one another. And what we need to do is start doing some sort of networking. I talked to Josiah about that. We need to start doing networking where we can learn from each other and where we can help each other, move forward. And that way, what's going to happen is energy is going to become a real expensive and it may become even very precious commodity in the future. I really think that Gary said something I never heard Gary say before about a freight train coming. I believe that at the end of time, there's a freight train that is going to hit all of us, okay? And it's going to hit us from many, many facets. It's not just a spiritual Sunday law freight train, okay? It's going to be energy. It's going to be food. It's going to be every aspect of our life. The devil is going to come after. It's a scorched earth or policy. Those of you who are historians, at the end of World War II, Hitler was destroying Germany. He wanted the people to destroy bridges, all their infrastructure and everything. As the Germans were losing the war, he wanted everything destroyed, okay? It was called scorched earth policy. And so the devil is going to do the same thing in the last days. Everything that we have been depending upon will be destroyed, okay? And the weather is going to be, if you think this has been a crazy summer, wait till next summer and the summer after that. If you think that the food supply, everything that we have been conditioned to trust in will come unraveled. And so our perception of last days has been very, very limited. Because the devil is smarter than we are. And the only thing that's going to get us through the last days is the grace of God. But we have a part to play, just like Noah did, okay? Noah built the ark. The ark didn't save him because God preserved the ark. But he had his part to play. That's why I'm not looking as closely at the dollars and cents and the return as I am on the security of having power to get my water, to get, to heat our home, and on and on and on. Brother, and we need to end this. Go ahead, brother.
So we of course stand on our ancestors' shoulders, and they were pretty smart back then. They had the Franklin stove with the bricks, and they had sand or rice bags on that, and they used that to keep them warm at night.
That's right.
And they lowered their energy needs.
Soapstone.
And they had, yes, okay, as another possibility.
Yep.
And they also built their cellars so that they could live there because of the Earth's natural heat being a lot lower, and they needed less energy to heat it up. And on top of that, they dug down deeper and made a root cellar.
That's right.
And they had apples a year or 2 years later because they put it in sawdust. And of course, they had their ice box, which was an ice house, and that was full of sawdust.
Yep.
It's amazing what they were doing then. If you're looking to cut energy and you're looking for a solar event or a nuclear event, that will work under all of those conditions.
Yeah, and I hear you. The thing is that we can improve on these older technologies, okay, by integrating what we already have today in using some of these concepts from the past.
But we still have to be using that which they formed before in order to integrate. Still should have a root cellar.
That's right. That's right. That's all good points. David, you had your hand up, and we really do need to end this.
The Amish are still doing it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just on Follow Road, the guy he had the mice. It was in the middle of June, July.
Yeah.
Had the mice in there and everything.
And you can go back to that lifestyle. That's one way of doing it, okay? But we are where we are today. And so if we can generate the power, then... it frees up a lot more time to go do God's work and to do what we need to do, okay? Because it does take a lot. And, yeah. Al, would you like to have closing prayer?
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come before you because you provide all good things. We ask as we go forward, as we ask for wisdom, Lord, for you promise that if we don't have it, you'll give it in abundance. That we would not only ask of you, but keep our ears open, not just to keep the wisdom, but to share. In the name of Jesus, amen.